Welcome back. Chris Temple here with you again, and we're going to have another preview today in this video leading up to Better in Our Backyards Mining and Energy Expo coming up the 1st through the 3rd of October in Bloomington, Minnesota, as you see here. With the notes to this video, you can register before it's too late. We're filling up quickly, happily to say, for a lot of different reasons. This is an economic and national security imperative that we get our house in order and reshore a lot of industries that we need vitally for our energy, for critical materials, and all the rest of these things. And today we're going to feature Hecla mining. Hecla is one of the big fish in the mining industry in North America. They were founded way back late in the 19th century. It's the oldest silver producer on the New York Stock Exchange. As you see here, it's listed under the symbol HL. And not only has it been for a while the largest primary silver producer in the US, it now is the largest primary silver producer in Canada as well. I've been to a couple of their projects personally in the past. The Lucky Friday mine, of course, is their anchor in northern Idaho. It's been around for decades. I've been to a couple of their exploration projects in Montana, and they have numerous exploration projects besides several working mines in both the US and Canada. And I'm going to have their Director of Governmental Affairs on here with me in just a second to talk about his take on things. Of course, he's going to be on a panel in Bloomington that's going to talk specifically about the daunting task that we have in this country to get our act together when it comes to permitting, when it comes to making sure that we take timely advantage, which is desperate right now in some cases, of the vast energy and metals and minerals wealth that we have within our own four walls. This is a part of the whole game plan we hope succeeds of making America great again. And of course, it involves being able to have control of our own destiny when it comes to metals, energy processing, and all of those different kinds of things. And here I'm welcoming Mike Satre. He is the Director of Governmental Affairs for the venerable Hecla Mining. Mike, I'm glad you could take a few minutes to join me.
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity. Good to sit down with you today.
Well, we're doing a series of discussions with a lot of the panelists, yourself included, as folks see right here. You're going to be on a panel talking about governmental affairs and permitting and all those kind of things. But before we get into that and your take on those subjects right now, Mike, with the Trump administration and some of the initiatives we're seeing, give us your quick elevator pitch. Right before you came on, I gave a few tidbits of my own about the history of Hecla. I've actually been to Lucky Friday in years past, once upon a time. But tell us your overall view of the company.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing company to work for, and really is a bit of a unicorn. We're a 134-year-old American mining company. We're based in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, just down the interstate from where the company got its start in the 1890s in the Silver Valley, and we're still there today. Like you said, you visited our Lucky Friday mine. We've been operating that for over 60 years. We have at least another 14 or 15 years there on the books, and potentially to be there for many more years to come. We have the largest silver mine in North America up here in Alaska, where I'm based, the Greens Creek mine, where we operate in a national monument to produce silver, zinc, lead, gold, and now copper as well. But we also have a footprint in Canada. We have a gold mine in Quebec, and our most recent acquisition is the Keno Hill silver mine in the Yukon Territory, and that mine actually makes us the largest silver producer in Canada. So we, in both the U.S. and Canada, we are the largest silver producer, and happy to provide the silver that our countries need as we go forward, because it truly is a critical mineral. We also have some exploration and development properties in Nevada. We're really trying to expand our exposure to the gold markets there in Nevada, and hopefully to have some exciting things to come there. And then we're working on an exploration project in Montana, one of the largest undeveloped silver copper deposits in the world. And so we hope to have a record of decision soon, and we'll be able to start exploration just outside of Libby, Montana.
And I was at that project in Libby, Montana, going on 30 years ago. I don't even remember who had it in their hands at the time. It wasn't Hecla.
Yeah.
But after some work was done, you guys came in as quite a well. Now we're moving toward a brownfield project, right?
Yeah. So yeah, this project has been held up as an example of everything that is wrong with permitting and
Yeah.
litigation in the United States. So it's this project and the project across the way, the Rock Creek project, which we also have ownership of, have been in permitting and litigation for 30 to 35 years. And we came in, in the last 10 years, trying to move the needle on the project as a bigger multi-asset company. And even we have had to adapt and try to change paths a little bit just to get something going there. This is a part of Montana that desperately needs economic development. We have families that want to work at the mines. In fact, many of them work at our mines in Alaska and Idaho and then have to commute back home. These folks want to come home. They want to support their families, have responsible resource development in their backyard, and we're finally making some small steps towards making that happen. But Senator Daines in particular has used these projects on the Senate floor and in committee as once again that prime example of why we need permitting reform and litigation reform in the United States.
Well, for sure, and I remind people constantly that all of these executive orders that have come out of the administration have been great. I think as far as all the intents are concerned, you and I are seeing the best policy intentions and tailwind of our lifetimes in this industry right now. But there's a lot of things that have to go along with it. Tort reform, of course, is one of them. When you're in Montana and somebody with blue hair in California who gets paid by an NGO to do such things can file suit and stop a project in Montana that they have nothing to do with. It shouldn't be that way. And I
Yeah,
want to get into that a little bit too, Mike, and get your views on that because this, of course, is what you do for Hecla. You deal with the government. You're dealing with all of these different things. And, there's a lot more we can tell people about Hecla as a company, and I'll have a link to the company's website and some other tidbits along with the notes of this video. But, you mentioned Steve Daines, a senator from Montana. I know that a lot of the Western senators and members of Congress are really, putting their shoulders to the wheel as well. What do you see, and I'll kind of put you on the spot maybe a little bit, as the single biggest shortcoming still that is not being addressed?
So I think you have to look at it in two phases. One is on the permitting side, and I think this president, this administration, this Congress is making great strides towards getting NEPA back to being a process statute, not a statute that's used to implement whatever policy of the day is coming out of whatever administration is charged, but looking at it purely as a process statute that can be used to quickly identify any potential environmental impacts of a project, find ways to mitigate that, and then move forward into the next phases of permitting. That it doesn't have to be tied up in for years of endless studies and new information coming on board. A company or a government agency trying to build a bridge for a highway shouldn't have to, add in years of NEPA process just to get a project going forward. There needs to be certainty out there, and that also, makes it incumbent upon the companies to reach out early to all of our stakeholders in the process and make sure they're on board and they know what's coming in NEPA, so that it can be very efficient. And when companies are looking to invest capital in the United States or elsewhere, they know that there is a pathway to get a return on that capital. So that's that. There's some great things happening on that side, but if we do not address some of the litigation problems in the United States, then any changes to NEPA really will ultimately get us tied up in the courts. Right now there's a 6-year window that you can litigate a NEPA decision. So you could actually get a record of decision, your permits, you could be constructing, you can be operating, and almost 6 years later, someone can come in, go to a court, get an injunction, stop your project. So we have to shorten that window.
Right.
No one wants to take away the ability of a citizen to petition their government, but you should have been actively involved in the NEPA process that led to that record of decision. There should be a very short time frame to address whatever grievance you have, and then the court shouldn't have wide powers to stop projects. They should have very specific things they can do to say, if there's a fault in some of the analysis, let's go address that fault and come back, and not put the entire project on hold and risk that capital investment and risk that economic benefit to communities.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned how long Libby has been in play in that way. You know, the first time I set foot on the ground in the Iron Range of Minnesota, the North Met project was a quarter of a century ago, and that thing's still not in development. I mean, it's ridiculous, especially when we have, and I'd like you to speak to this, Mike, and talk maybe a little bit about how you're going to address this at the Expo and how you address it with legislators and so forth. We have an economic and a national security imperative right now. We're in a hell of a lot of trouble as a country because for years it wasn't just sneakers and electronics and doodads and Christmas toys that we outsourced to China and other countries. It's all of these things that we need for the building blocks of life, our energy grid, our infrastructure, and the rest. How do you wake people up?
That it is really a great question, and it's the kind of question that we've been discussing in not only in our congressional offices, but when we have mining roundtables with our policymakers, within the industry itself, within our trade associations. Some of it is education about what our industry does, how we do it, that it's truly a high tech industry these days, and that people should want to be part of it. We can provide exciting careers that give you a lifestyle that you want and where you want, in some really neat places around the West and up in Alaska. But then it's also figuring out how to bring back some of the downstream portions of mineral processing back to the United States. We're really good at mining. We've been mining in the United States for 134 years at Hecla, but we don't do the downstream processing. And so ultimately, the concentrates that we produce, the metal we produce, ends up getting processed elsewhere because we don't have the ability in the United States to do that right now. And there's a variety of permitting issues that have come into play. Cheaper labor, cheaper energy, overseas that have attracted those processing facilities. So we have to start building that entire value chain, here in the United States, and having incentives to do that, and also making sure that we have the infrastructure, we have the ports, we have the railway, and most importantly, and this is the big piece of it, we have to have the cheap energy that allows us to do that.
Well, for sure. And one real quick thing too before I let you go, Mike, on all of that. And of course, we're going to be talking about that. You'll be talking about it on the panel that you're on, et cetera, at the Expo. And again, folks, if you've not yet registered, it's filling up. I mean, here we are. We're not quite finished the first week of September yet. And Ryan Sistad was concerned for a while. Well, gee, it's the first one of these things. Are we going to fill it up? But on the strength of the brand that Better in Our Backyard has put together and word getting out. Now, of course, it was just announced that Doug Burgum's Deputy Secretary of the Interior,
Yes.
Kate McGregor, is going to come and be a speaker, so that's a big deal. Now we're looking at all of a sudden the conceivability that we're going to sell this thing out before we get to the end of September. So that's a nice thing. And it's timely. Again, this is
Yeah.
an economic and national security imperative. I'm glad that you pointed out the jobs that are going to come. If we play our cards right, policy wise and economically, with the money that's needed for these projects, Mike, I really do believe that we could have an economic boom that rivals the Industrial Revolution of over a century ago. But there's a lot of ingredients that need to come into that, and we're going to talk about those, of course, in the Twin Cities. But real quick before you go, what was your first introduction yourself to Better in Our Backyard, you and Hecla?
Yeah, so I actually just ran into Ryan at some of the various trade association meetings that he had started to go out to introduce himself and the organization to a nationwide audience, and really what he brought to the table was just slightly different than what the existing trade associations were doing, and how he was promoting the mining industry and infrastructure development in general. And what I think what Ryan has been able to do is attract a nationwide group of companies into yet another venue where we can make our voice heard. And that's important because our opponents do the same thing. They have multiple
Yep.
organizations, multiple voices, and Ryan's able to talk about our projects and other infrastructure projects in a way that it really shows the public how important infrastructure development is, how important the entire value chain from mining to manufacturing is, and really this idea that if you want made in America, it has to start with mined in America.
For sure. No question about it. That's very, very well put. So, Mike, thanks so much. And again, folks, if you've not yet registered, it's not too late. Make sure that you register for the conference. The link is available with the video notes to this video. So, Mike, I look forward to seeing you. Thank you for your support and for Hecla's as well.
Yeah, no, can't wait to see everybody at the expo, and thanks so much for the time today.
Take care.